Hello class, my name is Travis Newton and I will be discussing my final project for GIS 540, which is creating maps based on tabular data concerning the 1845 Irish potato famine. So some quick background. Initially I was looking at prison populations, but I really couldn't come up with the data. So Dr. Tadioshian helped me out and assigned me this potato famine story. Initially, we were looking at the TSV files, and the first time I had this going, it was working pretty well. I was able to create the beginning of the script and start parsing the data based off of the statuses, and then start joining that. However, the joins, it would eliminate all the rows because there's something within the tabular data that is throwing errors and then not writing correctly. So I pretty much changed the workflow and went with the ArcGIS type functionality and joining it and doing the update and delete cursors through that method. So here's just a quick look at some of the map data there at the bottom, and then the tabular data at the top where you see status. There's about 6 to 7 different types of statuses that can be chosen by the user to go through and make these maps. And then initially I was looking at 5 total levels to match data to, but then I ended up dropping the congressional districts because, you know, 1/16th congressional district has nothing to do with 1845 time era. And in total, the script runs between 4.5 to 9 minutes, depending on how much lag's going on. And there's roughly 430 lines of code. This is the general workflow, and you can see it actually running in the 2 different videos I have on YouTube and in the folders. One is looking at the tool running within ArcGIS itself, and the other is through the IDE. I use PyCharm for it. So at the very beginning, we set imports and variables, and then the definitions are in there. Then we move on to creating XY point files, create geodatabases, and reproject all those files so they actually matched up. Moving on to spatial joins, I actually created 2 different sets. So the initial spatial joins and then an update cursor is what I call the file. And the reason I did that is so I still had the original data that was joined together, and then I had new ones that could then have the rows deleted in case there was an error and you wanted to go back and look at some other type of data. From there, it kind of goes through down to one of the cool definition or functions that I made, which was the table merge. And in there's all sorts of different tools that are being called upon, like the joining the tables, identifying rows. So that was first, and then running a summary statistics of that data, and then I had to convert that table or convert that data to a CSV table. That way I could try and write that into the HTML. I had to end up rejoining that data back to the original shape files because when I had joined all the data at the spatially joined to get the counts and all that stuff, I had way too many rows, and then the one-to-many and many-to-one factor started playing in. So, but by doing this, I was able to build the maps. It worked well. Then I ended up having a manual break after building the map layers. The reason was because I couldn't get the map layer system to work correctly, and I could not get the CSV data to write correctly to the HTML. So what I ended up doing was taking those CSV files, building a picture of that data, and then also manually going in there and creating the graduated symbols and exporting it to an image. So then in the script, it actually exports those pre-made pictures into the HTML that auto generates, and then I built the script tool at the end. Code checklist, I think it goes through most of all this stuff. The stuff in the red, it does not do. I just couldn't build any classes. It took me 4 weeks just to get what I got, and it doesn't work with inside the main file either, or on the online Moodle. It only works on my computer. Here is a picture of the Arc script that you'll see in the video. Here is just a snippet of the data processing. You see these lines. That's all the different breaks in the video that you'll see that separates the different areas within the script. Here is a look at the final HTML output page. You got your matched world countries to a world JPEG of the map. So here's some of that manual processing I was talking about that I already stated. At one point, I did have a semi-working file that would kind of start parsing the HTML files or the CSV files into HTML, but after making some changes and trying to use pandas, I could never get the data to ever work again correctly. So I ended up having to drop it. I dropped all sorts of stuff from this project, everything from shuttles, those pandas, and I think like all of us, we probably wrote like 5,000 plus lines of code and ended up having to scrap, it all because it didn't work. But that's what we're here for. So some improvements I plan on inputting is continue to practice both Python and Arcpy scripting, incorporate into the regular map building and the future GIS courses that are coming up next term. And then in the future, I'd like to continue working on this project, scrap it and just start fresh, and then, build an entire map by hand. That way you understand what's going on, you understand the functionalities, and then from there, you build the model builder, export that to the script, and then you can kind of use that as your working guide. You start mirror building the model builder, and then add Arcpy and the Python centric coding, where you need to optimize your script. And then I'd like to also apply this towards a business model that I've got in the wraps. And if there's not any questions, because everybody is online, I say thank you.